Hi, this is Nancy with On Point TV and Quilting with Nancy, and we bring to you now a new quilt series. This quilt series we're going to call Quilted Tiles, but I want to show you kind of how I came up with this idea of quilted tiles because it wasn't meant to be quilted tiles when I started. So this is an example of what we're going to be making. This is one of the blocks of one of the quilts that I'm working on, and I'm calling them quilted tiles. But let me show you where I started. So let me get this one out of the way. This is where really it all started. This is a book called Celtic Quilts by Beth Ann Williams. And in this book, she really, this was, I wish I could remember when the copyright was, but at least 15 years ago. And Beth Ann and I used to actually teach at the same quilt shop up here in Grand Rapids. And that was a really great time. We had so much fun. And that's when Beth wrote this book. The quilt underneath it is one of the quilts from Beth's book. But I do want to show you in this book a quilt that she had hired me to make for the quilt. Okay, this is one of those times that I go, why didn't I just put something on that page? Anyway, so this quilt is a quilt that Beth designed that I constructed and quilted for the book. And it was really quite an honor to be asked. With Celtic quilts, you see that there's a lot of, there's a perfect one, where the design is very swirly and goes in and out. And in the book, Beth teaches you about the look and the reasoning for the designs, and it's the new look for ancient designs. And Beth is Irish, and so for her, the whole Celtic idea was really very important. So this is kind of where it started. This book I have seen on Amazon, so if you wanted to go out and find it, I am sure that you'd be able to find it there. Beth had a couple of other books too, so check those out also. So this is a quilt that I made from Beth's design, and in the class, that's where I learned how to make the bias stems, how to put inlays in the design also. And on this particular quilt, I want you to notice the border, because this quilt, the background fabric of this and the border are not sewn together. They were just laid one over another, and that edge was covered with another bias stem, and that was taught to me in Beth's book. Love that. This one I hand appliqued, and I mentioned that now, and later in the series I'll talk to you about your options for stitching it down. This is one that I actually hand appliqued. These next two are from a series by HD Designs. It's a quilted pattern company. They're actually also in Michigan, and she had done the Celtic alphabet. So this was the Celtic alphabet in B, and that was going to at some point go to my sister Renee Barth, but I never gave it to her. So someday, Renee, you will be able to have this. We'll put it on your inheritance list. So this was from the HD Designs. Now, we did do some searching, and we could not find the quilted letters, was what she called the pattern, but that's where these came from. This one and the next one was one that I only blew up halfway. I didn't blow it up to the big one. And this is an R for Rolfsma, which is my family name. Oops, got to turn it this way. There we go. So that's the R. And I did add some beads to it just because it made it pretty. So once you know how to make bias stems, then there's really no end to what you can do with it. So this is showing it on a border. So I used the 1/2 inch bias stem here and put a really cool cable border on an otherwise very simple log cabin or courthouse style steps quilt. But you can see how putting such a simple little border on something really bumps up the interest of that quilt. And this is our Learning to Quilt. So this came from our Learning to Quilt series, and this is where I showed you in the quilt how to put the cable border that we showed that. So these are all, this episode is one of the lessons in the Learning to Quilt series. You can see the whole entire Learning to Quilt series starting with episode 101 on the On Point TV channel on YouTube. So if you'd like to watch all the way through that. And then there is a pattern and a book available for that too. Okay. So this is when I first designed my first one of my very own. So this was my very first design, and I've done it. God, I always take off all these kitty hairs that I find when I bring my quilts in. So this is a pillow. So on this, I'm going to flip it over. You can see that it's actually got a pillow and I put the piping in it. And this is a very simple design, but this was the first one that I designed myself. And when I decided to do what I thought was going to be a Celtic style quilt, I started with that theory, but then it didn't happen. The first one that I designed was this one, and it just didn't seem Celtic-y, and I don't know how stupid that sounds, but it just didn't. And I was like, what does it look like to me? To me, it looked like a tile, and a Moroccan tile to be particular. I called my friend Karen and I'm like, doesn't that look like a tile, Moroccan tile? Isn't there something? And Karen and I ended up Googling, look back and forth and looking on Pinterest, and sure enough, we found some. There are tiles that look like this type of design. Many of them have Moroccan colors, really bright colors. And then there was also the blue and yellow tiles. And that's what inspired me to do the blue and yellow ones. So this is what we're going to make. When we come back here in a little bit, I'm going to show you how to design your own quilted tile design. So these are the designs that we're going to work through in the Quilted Tile series. Most of them I've already done, but you'll see me actually working on one. And I want you to know that these particular drawings would be available for you as a PDF, downloadable PDF on the OnPoint-TV website. So take a look for those. Take a look for those on the website. But do know my whole intention here is to teach you to create your very own designs. So when you were to download one, if you would, this is what you would get. This is 1/8 of the design. So now look at when I unfold it, what it turns into. It turns into a complete tile design. Here's another one. That's what it starts with. And this is what it becomes. And this one actually changed even after this. I started this, and I'll show you how you make some changes. Here's another one. This ended up being one of my very favorite blocks. Love that. So there's 3 of them. Here's one. And I love this idea. And when you look at it, it just looks like random lines. Truth, they are. I have no idea what I'm doing at the time that I'm designing these, and I'll explain that in a minute. But doing that swirl, I don't know that it's going to decide to design and be like this. A whole, look at these, with these on both sides. I love that. And here you can see where I made a mistake, but I changed it. And this one is, so look at this design, the center here, these outside points, the circles, that is this tile. Finished. Do you see it? Here's the circles here. The points kind of look like cones. But look at here where this goes into the center section there. That really was not in the design. I drew that extra, and I'll talk to you about that later. That's the whole idea of analyzing the design and changing it or adding to it. And then the last one I want to show you before we create another is this one. And when this opens up, that's what the design looks like on paper, and that is this design in fabric. So all of these have been, the bias stems have been cut and pressed, and those are the techniques that we'll teach you. So now I want to show you how you would create your own designs. So the idea is you're going to take a piece of paper. Now this happens to be an 18-inch wide piece of paper that just so happens to be the size of freezer paper. So you can find freezer paper in the grocery store. It's 18 inches. That's just the most convenient thing I know of to getting paper. This is not a freezer paper. I have another roll of paper that I use, but this is an 18-inch square. Now I'm going to fold it into 8 pieces. So you got to go back to elementary school when the teacher taught you how to fold a snowflake. So there you have it. It's folded into 8 layers. All right. Now it is important that you know where the center is, and what I mean by that is here. One time I drew the whole thing, and I'm trying to think. Yep, this is it. So watch this. I drew this whole thing. When I unfolded it, I did not have a tile design. I had 4 really pretty corners, And not that I don't like these corners, and I will use this design in the yellow quilt that I'm making. I think I'll make some big cornerstones in the border, but you need to realize when you're doing your design that the center of the block is here, not there. So pay close attention to that. So again, I'm going to bring my piece. All right, this is the paper. So this is the, I hope this makes sense because it confused me. That's the opening. This is the actual center of the paper is right here. So now I'm going to take a normal pen. So let's see, I'm just going to grab this pen. No, I'm going to use my friction pen. The friction pen is the pens that when you use them, if you don't like what you see, you can make the marks go away. You can either make the marks go away with the nub. So watch this. That's a clicker. I can scribble. And it is the heat created by the friction that makes it go away. Well, in quilting world, that just means you get your iron out and you sweep your iron over top of it and it goes away. So here I am. I'm going to design my block. Here's the center of the paper. I'm going to grab a little ruler because I decided this time that I do straight lines. Might as well use a ruler, right? There's one. I'm going to put one randomly over here. Don't know why, just because. All right. Now I'm going to create some swirls. And as long as I have that going that way, maybe I'll add another one right out of the center of this. There we go. And I feel like I need one more. I'm going to... from here. Oh, I forgot one important thing. This is the open corner. You always want to mark an inch on there so that you know that you're not designing too close to the edge. So if you draw that there, then you know you're not going too close to the edge, okay? So one more line will be here. Bring this all the way down to there. All right. Why did I design it that way? I have no idea. The next step is for me to go to my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch through these lines on my sewing machine with no thread. So I like to put a larger needle in because I want it to leave a larger hole and I want it to be strong enough to stitch through the 8 layers of paper. Yes, that will dull my needle a little bit, and if you were, organized enough that you go, this is my paper stitching needle and this is my sewing needle, that would be a great idea. There's no way that I'm that organized, but if you are, more power to you. So when we come back, I'm going to have this stitched and we will reveal the design. Now I've stitched this all down so you can tell from the back side. Those are the stitching marks that I've made. And it's time for the big reveal. So this is when you open it and you go, oh my goodness, did I just design that? Check it out. So I don't know if you can see it yet, but I'm looking at it going, I did good. This is very interesting. So for this next step, that's where you want to use a good old Sharpie marker. I find them to work best. I've tried a couple of different things and inevitably I end up being disappointed with what I see. So I like to use Sharpie markers. For the blue and yellow design quilt, I'm only going to use 3 different fabrics. So I've got my 3 different fabrics here. And I'm going to just start analyzing the design and looking it through and go, you know what? On this line, this design, this will be one continuous design line. And whatever that color is, I'll need to use it at least once more. You never just want to use a color maybe once. You want it, I don't know, I think typically I like to use things a couple of times. So I think I'm going to come to this inside star with the same color. Keeping in mind, I could change my mind at any given moment. But for this moment, I'm deciding these will be the same. All right, so I've got 2 lines drawn. So now my next one, I'm going to use this, and I'm looking at this design, and this section up here is very, very interesting. And I'm thinking that this will all be one color. I could make it two colors. You could start it here and just do the top and then do the bottom as a second color, but I'm going to make it one. So I'm going to start here. It'll go up and around. And bring that up to there. So that'll make that, those will be kind of distinctive. I'll color the last one in a second. And then the next one, I'll make this section be a whole new color. And down here will be a whole, that same color. So let me continue drawing this, and when we come back, you'll see it all colored up, okay? There you go. I've got it all traced. I know that I'm going to use 3 colors. Now keep in mind, at this point you can add lines if you want to. So one thing I thought I would maybe add here, and then I decided not to, is a line that connected this so that this would actually flow right into this design. Decided I didn't need to do that. I do want it to be 2 separate colors. So when you're in this process, this is where you're looking, you know, do I want to add something or take something away? Maybe there's too many lines. Like maybe you didn't want to add this last line. You can do that all then. The next thing is to decide if there'll be any inlays, so bigger pieces of fabric. So instead of just the background with all of the bias stems on it, do you want to add some pieces of fabric? And I've decided I do. I'm not sure exactly what colors they will be yet. So what I want to do is take another color marker and kind of fill those in. So I don't know if this is a light purple, but I just want to, no, maybe the other end of it will work better. I guess I didn't pick the right marker for this. Okay, hold on everybody. Let's go to my stash of markers and find another one. There's another purplish one. Let's see if we do better. There, now you can see it. So I'm going to make this piece be one piece of fabric that'll lay down right in the middle. And then I think that I would use that same color possibly to lay down in here. And I keep saying I think because honestly, until I start playing with fabric, I don't know, anything can change. And you'll realize that when you start making them that, hey, you know what? I'm going to change that up to be a little different than the last block. All right, so I like that. And then the other part that I thought I would put an inlay in are these kind of teardrop sections up here. So I'll add a piece of fabric in there. There you go. My design is technically complete. I say that because you know I'm going to change my mind halfway through something, so I want to give myself the right to change my mind when I'm working on my design. So when we come back next time, we will be taking this design, transferring it onto the background fabric, and then I'll be teaching you how to make the 1/4 inch bias stems that'll create the designs. Have a great day.